The most bloody battle for Britain, Hells Angels versus Outlaws, engines roared, and the roads of Britain became a battleground as two notorious motorcycle gangs clashed in a brutal war for dominance. The Hells Angels, a fearsome force from the United States, faced off against the equally ruthless Outlaws on British soil, leaving a trail of bloodshed and mayhem and what would become the most notorious and deadly biker battle in the nation's history. So then let's start talking about the blood-soaked chronicles of the most savage biker conflict in Britain, Hells Angels versus Outlaws, when the legendary Hells Angels, a motorcycle gang from the United States, set their sights on new frontiers in the late 1960s. Great Britain was enveloped in a storm of rebellion and motorcycle culture. This storm lasted for several decades. However, they were not the only ones vying for domination on the roadways of Britain. Others did so as well. An additional tough gang, the Outlaws, had already established a foothold in the country, which led to a violent confrontation that would become one of the bloodiest fights in the history of bikers in the United Kingdom. The Hells Angels and the Outlaws have finally made their appearance in the late 1960s. Members of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club immigrated to Great Britain, bringing with them their instantly recognizable leather cuts, bearing the motifs of a skull and wings. Their presence caused shockwaves throughout the country as motorcycle culture was at its pinnacle at the time, and their reputation preceded them as a result of the escape they had carried out in the United States. While this was going on, the Outlaws, an opposing motorcycle gang, had already established themselves in Britain. Some accounts state that they were there before the Hells Angels, while others suggest that they set roots in Britain only in the late 1980s. The exact chronology of their arrival is unknown. However, it is unclear if they arrived before or after the Hells Angels conflict. The Hells Angels and the Outlaws were not the ones who started the dispute between their two gangs. Rather, it was the other way around. At the beginning of their conflict, the Hells Angels were pitted against another group known as the Outcasts, which was affiliated with the Outlaws. Tensions between the Hells Angels and the Outcasts began in 1997 when the Outcasts attempted to construct a powerful biker organization by allying themselves with another club called the Lost Tribe MC. At the time, the Hells Angels were already well established in the motorcycle subculture. However, the Lost Tribe MC decided to join the Hells Angels instead, which led to an increase in the level of friction between the two groups. A terrible accident occurred during the Rocker reunion concert at the height of the animosity between the Hells Angels and the Outcasts, which peaked in 1998 at a Rocker reunion event that took place in a large auditorium. A horrible occurrence occurred. There were members of the Outcasts present, and it seemed as though the Hells Angels were getting ready to launch an assault. In the confusion that followed, two members of the Outcasts were attacked, and in the end, they were unable to recover from their wounds. The two clubs' long-standing animosity was rekindled as a result of this event, which led to an escalation of physical altercations. The constant observation of law enforcement to combat illegal operations and protect the safety of the general public. Law enforcement officials kept a tight eye on the actions of both the Hells Angels and the Outlaws. Although steps were taken to combat the criminal activity that was being perpetrated by biker groups, the struggle for authority on the streets of Britain remained. The Bulldog Bash incident in 2007, the conflict escalated once again when the Outlaws planned an attack on a Hells Angels biker during the annual Bulldog Bash, an event initiated by the Hells Angels and one of the largest biker gatherings in Europe. The killing of Jerry Tobin, a member of the Hells Angels, made the police pay more attention to biker gangs and take action against the danger they presented. The shooter killed Mr. Tobin in a long-standing feud between the Outlaws and the Hells Angels. The shooting happened on land that the Outlaws consider theirs. It is believed that it was ordered by foreign leaders as revenge for a previous event. Some people believe that the Hells Angels deliberately chose the location of their annual Bulldog Bash, which is near Stratford-upon-Avon, to provoke conflict. Detective Constable Steve Cox had been studying biker gangs for a long time. He testified in the Tobin murder trial. He found out that the Outlaws consider Warwickshire, Staffordshire, South Wales, Derbyshire, Birmingham, and London as their main areas. The Hells Angels are also in London and South Wales, but they consider Windsor, Kent, Essex, and Wolverhampton as their main areas. Long Marston is a place where the Outlaws live. Detective Constable Cox explained that the South Warwickshire chapter considers that area to be within their control. The fight between the two gangs started with a lot of violent killings in North America in the late 1960s. Now it has spread to other places too. The police think that Jerry Tobin's murder may have been done as revenge for another attack that happened somewhere else in the world. Detective Superintendent Ken Lawrence, who was in charge of the murder investigation for Warwickshire Police, said, "I believe they wouldn't do something like this without permission. Because of the consequences, there needs to be some understanding and approval. The international aspect of the strong and shared dislike that led to Mr. Tobin's murder can be traced back to the late 1960s. During that time, an American member of the Outlaws committed a terrible act by sexually assaulting the wife of a Hells Angel before last summer's Bulldog Bash. Documents were given to a council licensing committee. These papers explained that a conflict between two gangs got worse and turned into a cycle of revenge. Sadly, this cycle ended with 3 Hells Angels members being killed and their bodies being thrown into a quarry in Florida. According to police officers working to stop biker violence, the deep dislike between the two gangs has only gotten stronger since those incidents. Warwickshire Police provided evidence, told the licensing authority in Stratford-upon-Avon, to show that the Bulldog Bash event could be risked to public safety. They mentioned various incidents, including the shooting of a Hells Angel on the M40 in 2001, which was similar to Mr. Tobin's murder. The police said that to understand the danger of the Bulldog Bash event, we need to know about the history of the motorcycle clubs. In 1998, the Outlaws threatened to bomb the Bulldog Bash event. The police and event organizers both took this threat seriously. A member of the Hells Angels was shot on August 12, 2001, while leaving the Bulldog Bash event on the 40. They considered this as an attempted murder. The situation was very similar to the murder of Gerard Tobin last year. The person got shot 3 times in the leg. At that time, people thought the shots came from a dark car, but the person who got H didn't want to officially report it. Warwickshire Police mentioned several instances of violence between two gangs in different parts of the world. One example they gave was a murder that happened in 2006 in New Hampshire. In his incident, a member of the Outlaws gang who was in charge of security killed a person who was wearing a Hells Angel shirt. However, even though we know the rivalry runs deep, we still don't know the exact reason why Mr. Tobin was killed. This is because biker gangs keep their activities secret, making it difficult to uncover the truth. They don't communicate with us, the witnesses and victims, so sometimes we're left in the dark about what's happening. Mr. Lawrence explained it's hard to connect the shooting to a specific previous event last year. In August, other events were happening at the same time as the murder. These events took place in Sweden and North America. I don't know what this was connected to. It's hard to connect one attack to another because they happen constantly. Mr. Lawrence thinks that the South Warwickshire group of the Outlaws was probably asked to do the killing by their leaders because the Bulldog Bash, which is organized by the Hells Angels, was happening in their area. The Outlaws organization started in the U.S. in 1935 and now has around 200 groups worldwide. The rivalry between the Hells Angels and the Outlaws remains one of the most violent and enduring battles in British biker history. Their clashes have left a lasting impact on the biker culture in the country. Despite law enforcement's efforts to curb their criminal activities, the two gangs have continued to clash throughout the years, creating a turbulent and deadly chapter in British motorcycle history. The battle for dominance between the Hells Angels and the Outlaws may have faded from public view, but the echoes of their violent past continue to reverberate within the biker underworld. That's all for the video today. We will be right back. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.